On today's show, let's talk about how the Dallas Mavericks have a championship-level defense now. That's right, a championship-level defense on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. The best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Like the video on YouTube. Comment anything below on YouTube. Let me know what's one reason the Mavs have a championship-level defense now. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Again, linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Today, we're getting into why the Mavericks have a championship-level defense. After that Game 5 performance, can't be a fluke anymore. You can't consider it to be a fluke, and I've got some reasons. We'll talk about Jason Kidd and the scheme, the coaching, how it works in high-pressure situations. We'll talk about how PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. and the wings are holding it down. We'll talk about the centers viably playing their role. But we got to start here. We got to start with this Dallas Mavericks team, and it starts with the two stars. The Mavericks in Game 5 held the Oklahoma City Thunder to 92 points, their lowest output in any game in the regular season or the playoffs so far. They were absolutely lights out on the defensive end. So great on the defensive end. It was wild to see how well. And yes, the Thunder missed a bunch of threes. They shot 25%. They took 40 of them. They only made 10, but the Mavs did that by design. They made the three-point shooters that the Thunder didn't necessarily want to take the most threes, take the most threes. But this Mavericks team is going on another level. And I was so confident going into Game 5. If you listen to the episode, if you listen to the episode right before Game 5, you knew I was confident in this game. And one of the reasons I have so much confidence in this Mavs team is because they have this baseline now. They have this baseline of defense, and they have this baseline of their identity. And their identity is kind of similar to what it was in 2022, but defensively, they are playing really well. They're playing at a really high level. I think they're playing at a championship level, and then their offense just has to be good enough. Back in 2022 is still about making more threes than the other team did. I guess you can say that there's still some of that trend here now, but I think that this Mavericks team is playing a level of defense that we just have not seen in a long, long time. And maybe since 2011. Can I say that? Am I allowed to talk about that on here? Am I allowed to say that? OKC hadn't been held to 92 points in any game in the regular season or the playoffs. Let me remind you again that this OKC team was a top 5 offense in the NBA in the regular season. This is not, even the Timberwolves offense, who was like 16th. This is the Thunder, who had a top 2 half-court offense. So that half-court offense is usually a sign of a really good playoff offense. This Mavericks team has taken this OKC team and put them in a box that they were not ready for. OKC was only held under 100 points. So they held them to 92 in game 5. They've only been held under 100 points 3 times the entire regular season. This OKC team is not used to playing against the level of defense the Mavs are playing right now. And I think that's just absolutely incredible. You love to see it. You love to see what this Mavericks team is doing right now. It gives you confidence. It gave me confidence they're going to win Game 5. And honestly, it's giving me confidence they're going to win Game 6 too. I think there's a lot of flukiness to it. I think that there can be that the Thunder are going to come out really desperate. And we saw them look like that in Game 1. And we saw them come out and play really well. But I think this Mavericks team has figured out the formula. I think that they play these tough defensive games. And as long as the Mavericks don't beat themselves like they did in Game 4, I think the Mavericks will win Game 6 as well. We'll talk about Quiiiz for Game 6 tomorrow on tomorrow's episode. So come back and check out that. But the reasons why the Mavericks have played this championship level defense starts with Luka and Kyrie. Yes, it doesn't start with PJ. It doesn't start with the centers. Doesn't start with the scheme. It starts with Luka and Kyrie. These two have locked in. These two have bought in. As much as you've seen slightly biased to myself, locked into this team and locked into what they're doing right now, and slightly keeps using the term like, I'm locked in. So locked in. He keeps using it over and over again. Luka and Kyrie have bought in, and they've locked in completely on defense. You've seen Luka play some of the best defense he's played the entire postseason. And I'm not just looking at the Thunder in this episode either. I'm looking at the Clippers series too, where the Mavs took the Clippers offense and made them look like they didn't know what they're doing at times, made them slow down, made them look like they were not a good level offense when they were a really, really great offense during the regular season. Luka played some of his best defense in that series. He's played some really good defense at times in this series. He had the block against SGA at the end of that game 5. An absolutely amazing play where SGA is in transition. Luka catches him in the middle of the court and then kind of, funnels him towards the edge of the paint and then gets the block on him. An amazing play. There's an amazing picture of it that's circling around social media right now. You love to see it. Luka was barking afterwards, barking at the fans, telling them thanks to all the fans for barking at him and for motivating him because he loves it and all that. But Luka and Kyrie, they've bought in. And if those two guys have bought in, this has been my thing this entire postseason run. If they've bought in, everyone else has no excuse. No excuse, because you're asking the most out of Luka and Kyrie on offense. And if those two guys are playing in their role, playing exactly what they need to, getting to the rotations that they need to, then everyone else will buy in around it. And it'll work well. Kyrie specifically. Kyrie has not been the greatest offensive player during this stretch. We'll talk about him a little bit tomorrow on tomorrow's show. But Kyrie has not had the greatest offensive series. We've talked about it, where we're still kind of waiting for like a normal Kyrie game. We haven't had it yet, really, scoring-wise. He's had some good offensive outputs. He's had double-digit assists. He's had 20 points in a couple games. But we haven't seen that. But what we have seen from Kyrie is really, really good level defense. You've got to give him credit for that, and I'm giving him credit today. Jalen Williams on the Thunder is playing a level, and yes, he's a young player, but he's playing at a level that just is not who he is. In the regular season, Jalen Williams, the wing, 19 points a game on 54% from the field, 43% from 3 in 31 minutes. 31 minutes. So that's not even a ton of minutes. So you look at 19 points, you go, oh, that's not bad. But really great efficiency, shot the ball extremely well, 31 minutes. In the playoffs right now against the Mavericks, he's averaging 16 points on 40% shooting on 31% from 3 in 38 minutes. More minutes, less points, less efficiency, and guess who's guarding him the most out of any player on the Mavericks? It's Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has guarded him the most. He's guarded him 25 minutes. That's 119 possessions. The next closest was way below that. But Kyrie has guarded Jalen Williams, and he's taken him completely out of this series at times. He's winning that matchup. Even if Kyrie is not giving you everything you hope for on offense, he is still playing incredible defense against Jalen Williams and basically pushing him to the side and saying, hey, SGA's just got to beat us now. That's the option. SGA or Chet just have to beat us now. SGA, Chet, or threes. That's what can beat us now, because Jalen Williams is not. Because Kyrie took him, and Kyrie is beating him on defense right now. In the 25 minutes that Jalen Williams has been guarded by Kyrie Irving in this series, 25 minutes. He's only taken 9 shots. He's made 5 of them, but he's only taken 9 shots. That number was wild to me. Jalen Williams in the series, he's gone against a bunch of different players, and he's taken more shots against other players, but Kyrie holds him to low-level field goal attempts. Over 5 games now, 9 field goal attempts when guarded by Kyrie. That's not a lot. That's like 1 or 2 a game. It's wild how well Kyrie is playing on defense. We talked about Luka's level of defense as well, and if those two guys are playing defense at the level, they're buying in at the level that they are right now. That's one of the reasons why this Mavericks defense has a championship-level defense. The intangibles that Kyrie and Luka bring as well, they've bought in, but they also can do things on defense. Luka has had steals. Kyrie has had steals, blocks. They both are super smart players, where you'll watch them and you say, man, how did they know that pass is going to there? Well, they've seen a million basketball plays. And so you know that those two guys are going to know where the ball is going to go next. They're in front of it. They know where defenders are going to go. Luka plays very physical, obviously. Luka rebounds too, which has helped their defense. Luka and Kyrie have brought things to the defensive end. They've bought in on defense. I think that's one of the first reasons why they've been a championship level defense. But there's so many other reasons why this team is a championship level defense. We'll talk about all that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. It isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion different professionals that you want to talk to, which makes it the best place to hire. So it gives you access to those professionals you can't find anywhere else. It does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that, get this, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So think about it. If you own a small business, you're trying to hire somebody, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours on LinkedIn. So check that out. See what they have at LinkedIn and go find it there. LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, they will apply at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking in on the show. The Mavs are up 3-2 on the Thunder right now in the second round of the playoffs. They're 1 win away in the closeout game of playing the winner of Denver, Minnesota. They went to a Game 7, an insane Game 6 for them, where the Timberwolves beat them by like 40. They were up by 50 at one point. It felt like Game 7 of Mavs Suns a couple years ago. So we're waiting on that one. And if the Mavs can close it out in 6, that means it gives Luka some extra time. It gives the rest of the team some extra time to relax or to prepare for one of those teams and all that. So we're watching that. And also remember, you remember this stat from the Clippers series? Kyrie Irving in his career is 13-0 in closeout games in the playoffs. This is a closeout game in Game 6. So remember that one. Think about that one. Remember that one. We're talking about why the Mavericks have a championship-level defense. We talked about how Luka and Kyrie have bought in. The other thing, got to give credit to Jason Kidd and the coaching staff. The Mavs defensive scheme drives you insane at times. Because how many times during the regular season this year, but especially last year, we talked about how the defense is predicated on effort, intentionality, and communication. You could say, yes, Nick, that's all defense. Of course, sure. But this one specifically, because of the way that you have to rotate, because of the way that you have to communicate, because of the way you have to fill in gaps when somebody else has to go rotate, you have to know what the other person is going to do, and you have to instinctually think about, where do I think that this one defender is going to go so that I can anticipate what they're doing so that I can replace them. That takes effort of mental effort and also physical effort to run to that place across the lane or across the court or whatever it is. The thing about the Mavs defensive scheme is it kind of embodies the personality of Jason Kidd coaching this Mavericks team. What have we talked about with Jason Kidd? Jason Kidd, when he believes in a team, 2022, 2024, believes in the team, believes in the players on the team. When he believes in them, he locks in. He locks in, he buys in, and he is much more engaged coaching. He cares more about the team. He calls more timeouts to stop plays and runs. He does all kinds of stuff. He tries new lineups, all that. When he's not literally locked in, 2023, seems like he quits on the team at times. And it seems like he, decided, man, we can't win this. And so we're just going to keep running it out, and we're just going to see what happens with this team. 2023 was a dark time. And they played the same exact defensive scheme that they did in 2022, that they're doing right now, that they did in 2023 as well. But that defensive scheme plays so well and works so well in high pressure situations because you have it already assumed and you have it already locked in that these players are going to be locked in. It's the playoffs. If you're not going to get up for the playoffs, you don't deserve to play. And so all these guys are going to be locked in. And so that you have everybody on the balls of their feet, ready to go. You have them on the edge of their seat. You have them ready to go in any moment. You know that they're going to put in that extra effort because everyone's watching you. Every single possession matters. And everything you do on the court has to have a purpose. And so we know that this defensive scheme works in high-pressure situations. It works in high-pressure situations. They kind of also have the horses now to do it. And they have the players now to do it. We'll talk about those a little bit later. But I think the scheme is one of the things. A couple of changes that Jason Kidd has made in this series. One of them is that he's put P.J. Washington on Chet. P.J. Washington on Chet has played just about 18 minutes so far in this series, guarding him, according to NBA matchup data. It's not always perfect, but he's guarded him about 18 minutes in the series. That's the most of any player. Lively has guarded Chet about 12 minutes, and Gafford has guarded him about 13 minutes. So PJ Washington has guarded the Thunder center more than the Mavs centers have. They've put the Mavs centers over in the corner, sort of on one of the, the Cason Wallaces, the Aaron Wiggins, the Isaiah Joes, the Josh Giddeys. Put them on them, and then those centers are able to roam around the paint and not have to worry about those guys out on the corners. That's one change that they've made. And so I think that this coaching staff, the scheme has worked really well. The other thing that they've changed, they are selling out on these three-point shots. Selling out. I mean, if you've watched a closeout from the Mavericks where a Thunder player is about to take a shot, the Mavs players are just running at them, just like full speed almost. They don't want them to take those threes. And it really worked. In game 2 and 3, they took 30 shots from 3. In game 4, they only took 27. They only made 7 of them. In game 5, the Thunder took 40, but it wasn't the types of threes that the Thunder really want to take, and they only made 10 of them because the Mavs sold out on those. They were contested. They were not these wide open threes. Some of them were, but for the most part, the Mavs have really tried to take the three away. So you look at in the last 4 games, the Thunder have shot 33%, 33%, 26%, and 25% from 3. This was the best three-point shooting team by percentage in the regular season. Are you starting to see a trend here? The Thunder, second best half-court offense, 4th best total offense, best three-point shooting team. The Mavs are taking away these things. Ask Rylan Stiles. This is not just the Thunder choking away this, right? Some of their players have been playing well. Shea has played a decent series. He's played well in games. Chet has had some good games. They've had some good three-point shooting from some role players. This is not them just choking away. Maybe you can make the case that Jalen Williams is. And maybe I'm overrating Kyrie's defense on him. But you look overall, and I think the Mavs are starting to take away some of these things from the Thunder. And you've seen it in the Mavs' 3 wins. OKC in the regular season, when they shot under 29% from 3, under 29.1%, they were 3-10 in the regular season. Seems to be a real key. And so Jason Kidd, the coaching staff, realized that, especially in game 1 when they shot 46% and they killed them from 3, and that was really one of the big differences. And so they're selling out on those threes. The other thing that they're doing, the change, so we talked about one of the wings on Chet. We talked about them limiting the amount of three-point shots. They're also limiting which players take the three-point shots. So when I talk about they're selling out on these threes, they're not selling out on all the threes. They'll allow some players to take threes. Giddey is one of them. He's taken 14 threes, which doesn't sound like a lot, 14 threes. Guess who's taken 15 threes? SGA. SGA, their star player, has taken 1 more 3 than Josh Giddey in this series. And the Mavs are leaving Giddey wide open to take these threes. It's kind of wild. Do you know who's leading the Thunder in three-point attempts this series? Lou Dort. Lou Dort has shot 34 threes in this series. Isaiah Joe has taken 21. Chet has taken 20. Jalen Williams has taken 16. Cason Wallace 15. SGA 15. Giddey 14. That's the top three-point attempts so far in this series. That is wild. The Mavs are figuring out that if they let Dort and Chet now and Giddey, and you let some of these guys take more threes than the Jalen Williamses, than the SGAs, than I guess Isaiah Joe, you can take some. But if you let those role players take more than the star players, that'll work out well for you. It's a good adjustment. Compare that to the Clippers, how the Clippers stars took threes. So I mentioned SGA's taken 15 threes so far in 5 games. Played 6 games against the Clippers, so consider that. But Paul George took 49 threes in this series against the Mavs. James Harden took 47 threes. SGA's taken 15 in just 1 less game. Maybe that's on SGA to just take more threes. It's maybe not necessarily his game that much, but it's the playoffs, man. Like you've got to take those. You've got to take those threes. You've got to be able to win that battle. The Thunder aren't winning that battle right now. Dort is taking the most threes for your team. Can you just win on 2s? Can you just win on 2s in those mid-range shots? I don't know. I don't know about that. I thought that difference in three-point attempts was wild. Paul George and Harden took 49 and 47 threes, and SGA's taken 15. At a certain point, it's a numbers game. You're just not giving them enough. You know who is giving the Mavericks enough, though? PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., and the centers. Let's talk about their contribution to this defense. We'll talk about all that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. It's the formula for winning a championship. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, all kinds of stuff that you would want, whether you're into speed, power, or style for your car. eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million different parts to choose from for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, you know that your part is going to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available at eBay Motors. All right, Isaac, let's get into a couple more reasons why this Mavericks defense is championship level now. We've given Luka and Kyrie their flowers. We've given Jason Kidd and the coaching staff and their scheme and their adjustments their flowers for sure. But now it's on the guys that are making it happen in a lot of different areas. Let's just give PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. some minutes here. They have been so good defensively. They have held their own. They have played help defense. They have come over and gotten steals and blocks. They have played in front of a bunch of different players. They have guarded Chet. They have guarded Jalen Williams. They have guarded SGA. They've guarded all these different guys, rotated around, been there exactly what they needed. And man, do they feel exactly like Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock did. And when the Mavs have two wings like that, those wings don't even have to be like elite level defenders. As long as they're just willing defenders, willing to be in the right places and be long and be strong and be there, they can get things done. And they're getting things done right now. You love to see it from these two guys, especially when you think about where these two guys have come from. PJ Washington, I've had many people tell me in NBA media and Mavs fans and other teams fans and everybody, man, I did not think PJ Washington was a good defender. Well, yeah, he played on the Charlotte Hornets for a couple of years, for his whole career basically, and they've been a terrible defense. But the thing that I kept pointing back to with PJ Washington was the year before this past one where he played with Mark Williams. Mark Williams is a good defensive center from Duke. He had, was injured this past year, so the numbers really were skewed. But the year that PJ Washington actually got to play with Mark Williams, they had a solid defensive rating, those two together, when they were on the court. I think that PJ Washington could play defense, and if you watched him, you could see that there's obviously tools there. You could see he's got the wingspan. You could see he's got the foot speed. He's got the size. He's got all that. PJ Washington came in, decided that, hey, I'm going to be motivated to play in the playoffs. That's what I want to do. I want to play in the playoffs. And so he was motivated to step up, take this spot, take any guy that he was asked to guard, whether it was a center like Chet, Bam Adebayo, whoever, whether it was a lead guard, SGA. He guarded him the first game. He came into the game for the Mavericks. PJ Washington has been awesome, stepping up, taking his role, being exactly who the Mavericks needed him to be. And this is just on the defensive end. We haven't even talked about his offense that much lately, but he has given the Mavericks some awesome stuff on offense. Outplaying Jalen Williams, by the way. Who would have thought that? PJ Washington on offense, outplaying Jalen Williams. The other one is Derrick Jones Jr. holding his own. This is another guy that came from, situations where you were like, does this guy still have a role on a team? Not necessarily even like a starting role, but does this guy have a role on a team? He played 14 minutes a game last year for Chicago. He played 64 games, didn't start a single game. He had played a couple of seasons in Miami. You're like, okay, he's looking pretty good there. Then he goes to Portland and starts a bunch, but then it didn't really work out that well. Then he goes to Chicago. He's kind of just like an obscurity. And so now he's trying to figure out his spot in the league and his place in the league and trying to prove something. And that's the thing about both these two guys, PJ and Derrick Jones Jr., trying to prove something. Trying to show the rest of the world they belong in the NBA. Trying to show the rest of the world they can defend. They can defend at a high level. They can be awesome. And they both are. They're holding their own. They're flying around, doing all kinds of stuff. Slightly said this on Twitter the other day. You've got to be in person to see how this Mavericks team flies around. That applies to Luka and Kyrie, but it definitely applies to these two wings. These two wings, when they fly around and they contest shots and they fly around controlled too, it stands out a lot. They've learned a lot in this defensive scheme. They're playing really well in it. You love to see what they're doing, and then they're getting fed on offense on the other end too, and they're coming up big for the Mavericks. Huge. Absolutely massive. Love what these two guys have brought to the Mavs. The last reason I think this Mavericks team is a championship level team defense. Their centers are playing viably in their role. They are viably playing their role. The Mavericks just needed those two centers to play, especially with Maxi Kleber out. That has really hurt them. We have not talked about that enough in this podcast in post games and in the in-between episodes and things like that. But when he's not playing, it's like you don't really even consider it. It's like, let's just focus on the guys you have now. But since Maxi's been out, these two centers have had to play. And they have. The Mavericks, one of their schemes, we can talk about this with coaching, one of their schemes is to just funnel all these players to the centers. And so you'll see Luka sometimes turn his hips and allow the offensive player to just kind of go by him. And sometimes it looks like he's just getting driven by. Remember all those floaters that Harden got at the end of some of those Clippers games? He got those by design. And so you see those guys funneling the offensive players to the centers, and the centers are standing their ground. The centers are denying shots. They're altering shots. They're not getting a ton of blocks, but they are altering a bunch of shots. They're pushing guys away. They're sending them away so they take these tough mid-range, contested shots instead of the shots right at the rim. And they're doing it while staying out of foul trouble. They've only had 3 fouls in these games. Neither of them have gotten 4 fouls in a game so far. Neither Lively or Gafford have gotten 4 fouls in a game against the Thunder. Their minutes, they've been solid in their minutes. Lively has played 27. Gafford's played 27 twice. They both played 25 once. They both played 23 once. They both played 20 once. And Lively played 13 minutes in one game. Their minutes have been solid across the board. They've been able to play in basically every game. They've been able to show up. They both have a double-double in this series so far. They both have big moments in this series so far. Lively had the hack a Lively moment where he got, intentionally fouled, so he would go to the free throw line. And then he went 8 of 12 when Kyrie came up to him and was like, hey, don't run away from this. Go ahead and take those free throws. Take it as a compliment and go up and get this win for us. So he hit the last 4 massive shots, and the Mavs got the win. Huge one. Game 5, quietly hit 5 of 6 of his free throws. This is a guy that has struggled to shoot his free throws this season. They both have had massive games. Their rebounding numbers stand out. They both have, they both finished plays, especially when the Thunder team is playing Chet out on the perimeter and the Mavs are guarding him with a wing player. And so the Mavericks center is able to stay around, get those defensive rebounds, end possessions. I know that we're known for saying that the rebounding doesn't matter. That co-host is gone. Rebounding does matter in the sense that it finishes the defensive play. And so just because they don't get a block or a steal on a play or something like that, these centers are finishing plays. And that's absolutely one of the reasons why these two guys have helped the Mavericks become a championship level defense. There's a bunch of other reasons, but those are the ones that I have. Let me know in the comment section on YouTube what's one reason why this Mavericks team has become a championship level defense. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.